Nobody's listening, right? Hi, Andy.
Hello.
Is anyone listening?
Yes.
Oh.
This is from SoCal Kelsey.
Okay.
5 stars.
Thank you.
I'm a Christian nobody/somebody.
Love it.
Yes, we're out here. I'm a Christian.
Yay.
I'm a Christian nobody/somebody, and I also worship Saint Monica.
The button's still in the bedroom.
Still in the boudoir. For recommending your fantastic podcast. I'm devouring all your episodes from the beginning and praying that I get to hear Andy read my review when I catch up in 100-ish hours.
Oh, that's nice to
Prayers
know.
answered, friend. I'm so grateful for the way you two tackle through topics and... Oh, that doesn't make sense. I'm so grateful for the way you two tackle tough topics and silly ones with thoughtfulness and genuine care for one another. You both are an absolute delight. You both are...
Oh, boy.
You both are an absolute delight. I'll keep it in for you, just because I know you want it in. When I listen with AirPods in public, I have to stifle my laughter. It hurts, and you keep me smiling even in LA traffic. You've made me an NLR evangelist, off to spread the gospel to tell others about your amazing pod.
Thank you.
I love all the religious wordplay in here.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Because they're owning their Christianity,
and
then also kind of
we all get it.
Converting us in the meantime.
Well,
too.
I do feel more Christian right now.
Yeah, they're spreading the gospel.
You know, I find a lot of comfort having people in my life who I know will pray for me if need be, even though, as we've discussed.
You think this person's praying for you?
I'd love
You're making a leap. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question.
I mean more like in a time of need.
You don't just like being in thoughts and prayers of people?
Well, let's talk about this. This is interesting.
That's usually a need too, sort of. You're in our thoughts and prayers right now.
Well, the whole prayer thing I find very interesting. And to be honest, I prayed recently about what? I'm not sure, but I prayed.
I don't know if you're supposed to pray about that stuff. What was it?
About what stuff?
What was it?
Well, here's the thing. There are people who are like praying that their football team wins the big game.
You can pray for sports. That's okay.
Okay. It's interesting given like what people pray about. And I kind of am saving now that I don't really pray that much. I like to put good thoughts out there and stuff. And I think good thoughts towards people and energy and all of that shit. But I prayed recently and it was interesting because I haven't prayed really in earnest since I believed in a like white man god with a beard in the sky type
Only one
thing.
that you can believe in. He's the best.
And I had to like recalibrate. That was my natural thing, was to kind of like be like, I'm praying to this entity. And I had to kind of like go, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey. And so I guess another thing I've done is praying to my parents. So that feels nice. And I think that's what I switched to recently.
The parents?
To my parents.
To them.
Yeah, like, hey, mom and dad, dear mom and dad, like, hey.
Please help me insert blank. What are you praying for these days?
Well, I'm trying to remember what it was because it was obviously something fairly important. I mean, possibly it was... I'm
worried about. It probably
I hope
it's not attached to anything like financial or project-based.
Oh.
Material-based.
No. You know what it probably was? It might have been, honestly, if I'm being totally honest. I might have been praying about some, like, please let something work out. Mm-hmm. You know, I haven't worked it's coming up on a year. Things are tight.
Should we pray on that for a second?
No. Another month, another ER visit in our life. And so I'm guessing I was probably praying about a kid who was sick and we didn't know what was going on. We found out what was going on.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm glad you're sharing this great story. You know you can't lie about praying, right? Because I don't think that's what you prayed about.
It might have been.
It might have been. You haven't prayed in years, and all of a sudden you pray and you can't, and it might have been this.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, cool. Anyways, yeah, we did have an ER. Because that was a bummer.
It was very scary because what happened, can I just tell this whole
I
story?
think so,
I
yeah.
think it's also like a PSA in case this thing is out there.
Well, that's kind of what I'm worried about. I'm worried we're like actually
We're
ground
ground
zero for something that I really sort of am worried about that.
Well, I do want to talk to you about where this came from.
Do you think you know?
Well, Teddy thinks she knows.
Are you serious?
Okay, so anyway, our son we had Easter. I think last week we talked about fleeing from the storm, getting home.
Yep.
We had our wonderful friends over for Easter, had a nice, like, fun Easter egg hunt and breakfast and everything, and then they headed out. And then slowly, and Otis had like little sniffles and stuff like that, but that's pretty normal for, nothing's.
Hey, before you get any further on that, though, I just want to thank Base for supporting our show this week.
Yes.
Base Luggage makes luggage that is just as beautiful as it is functional.
Great.
What you're going to do is go to basetravel.com/NLR for 15% off your purchase. That's BEIS travel.com/NLR for 15% off your first purchase. Tell me more, Elizabeth.
Okay. So Otis, suddenly his one ear started turning bright red.
One.
It was so odd.
Like a rich dark red. Like,
yeah, very like burgundy.
yeah, getting to like, I might become purple.
A
like,
Merlot situation.
Yeah,
and we were like going on a walk and Teddy noticed it. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And at first I thought maybe he had a spider bite. Then it started swelling, which was very odd. And also still not part of what I know now is going on. He's a unique kid who has unique reactions to things. And so
I'm fast forwarding to when this comes out on Wednesday. One of our listeners is going to hear it. Then Homeland Security is going to show up at our house on Thursday. They're going to put a big tarp bubble over our entire house.
that we're inside of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it keeps swelling up to the degree that we're like, this is weird. And of course I Google it. And it's like, you can't even find much on, it's the outer cartilage of his ear. Like, it's not an inner ear situation. He's not in pain. I mean, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also what I will later find out is he had swollen like lymph nodes behind his ear. But online it says, it's probably nothing. This happens, but if the bone behind the ear is infected and like swollen, it could be life-threatening. So that was the moment I was like, and we're off to the ER, grabbed stuff, headed out. Of course, it's a long-ass wait.
Yep.
I'm a little dismayed right now with medical professionals, and also I want to caveat by saying so grateful for them. But I think that...
Do better.
I think we have this idea of like, they all have all the answers and they all have all the same information.
Sure.
And just throughout life, I keep learning over and over again, that's not true. They're human beings and they do the best that they can with what they have.
Yeah.
So this particular ER, I had to make the call between going to a regular ER and going to Children's. Now, Children's is the best one of the top pediatric hospitals in the country. We've had so many incredible experiences there. Some people might know Otis was there for a week when he was 1 year old. But the wait there, because it is so good, everyone takes their kids.
It's a longer drive and a longer wait.
So anyway, I took him to a regular ER, which, whatever. We wait. We finally get in 5 hours into it. It's like so late now. We're so tired. And the doctor was really, thorough and checking him and stuff. Said it can't be the bone thing.
Yeah.
Don't worry, which was such a relief.
Yeah.
But he couldn't figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Now, during this time, a little rash starts on Otis's face.
Yeah.
And it's getting like more and more noticeable. So he's like, I'm going to prescribe you these antibiotics. Like, go on about your merry day. It's probably some weird infection. If it's bacterial, these will kill it. If it's viral, you'll just ride it out. So we go to CVS at like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
They don't have those antibiotics. And the pharmacist there, and God bless pharmacists, I know it's one of those professions that has like a high rate of suicide.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of a thankless thing. And so my heart goes out to, and I thought of that because this guy's working the graveyard shift. He didn't seem like a happy camper.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have cared fucking less. And I'm there. He knew it was coming from the ER.
Mm-hmm.
Like and he's like, oh, I sent it back to the doctor. We don't have it. No CVSs have it. I haven't gotten that prescription in a long time. And I was like, okay, we need something. I've just spent 5.5 hours. Like, I'm not leaving without something. And then he is on the phone with the ER on hold for 20 minutes and then gets through and they're like, give him the pills. So he comes back and he's like, we'll do pills instead. They're these huge fucking pills. Our kid has never taken pills. I'm like, are you out of your mind? But that's all they had. So, I mean, Otis, God bless him. I'm going to get very Christian this episode because I'm feeling it. Just chewed up the pill with some Gatorade and had the horrible pill flavor in his mouth because this poor kid was... Anyway, by then the rash is noticeable.
Yeah. Well, and then next morning
it is absolutely bananas. Bright red on all of his face, essentially, except for his forehead.
Yeah.
And like mean looking, but it's not raised.
And
it's
he's
so
not
weird.
super uncomfortable with it. It's like you would think this would be miserable, but he's kind of like, it's not good. But
yeah, and it's around this time that, or had it gone to the other year yet? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's like on both sides.
It's going, which actually made me feel better because it's definitely not the bone thing or whatever.
Okay.
But you take him to the pediatrician. Now, it's not our regular pediatrician who we love, and it's some other person.
And they quickly are like, do not take those antibiotics. They can cause more harm. It's definitely not an ear infection that would need antibiotics.
Well, but this is what, and granted, you were taking him, and I had been with the doctor the night before.
Yeah.
But you were saying they were looking inside his ear and going, they're all clear. We already knew that. It was the outer cartilage.
I know, but she didn't even understand why they would give antibiotics for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, no offense to her, not at the top of her game that day.
It didn't seem like it
because she said it's nothing. Basically, like, she didn't even say it was a virus. And she was like, he can go to school. It's fine. Like, gave you kind of nothing to go off of.
Yeah, that it was just like a rash.
Some cortisone.
But I did say that it was, you're leaving out that at the ER, he did have a, what kind of virus did he test positive for?
Rhinovirus, which is like a cold.
Yeah. So they did know he had a cold. So,
well, that even makes it worse because she goes, it's probably a reaction to like a new soap or a new sunscreen or something.
They tested for strep because they were like, that's one virus that occasionally it does present as a rash and not necessarily a sore throat. And that can be very dangerous if you don't catch it because you're not catching it because usually strep throat, it's like, ow, my throat hurts, right? Mm-hmm. And then it can spread to other parts of the body and be very dangerous. Oh. So they were like, we do want to make sure it's not that.
That's good.
Yeah, and it wasn't that.
Well, anyway, but my whole thing was he has a virus. Yeah. You can't say he doesn't have a virus. Yeah. Anyway, he came home. By that point, he looked like a walking tomato. Yeah. And I Googled, and sure enough, I was like, oh, this is it. It's fifth disease, which I don't know why it's called disease. It's like a virus. And it's also known as slap cheek syndrome.
Makes sense. Looks like that.
And luckily, by the time the rash arrives, it's not contagious anymore. So, like, he could go back to school. We kept him one more day because it didn't look like you look like you're a walking
we didn't want
germ.
To be. Yeah, exactly.
But it is still like kind of all over his body. It's faded a lot, and now our other kid has the beginning of it.
So, was it contagious? I guess she would have gotten it before his rash.
Yeah, but this is another...
I'm just worried that there's going to be an outbreak at school.
Right.
In which case, we can blame the doctor who said it was okay to go to school. He even had a note saying that.
So, question is, the week leading up to this, like 8 days...
Oh, you think you know where they got it?
We were just the four of us at home. I mean, we did see friends for a little bit, and maybe we should give them a heads up. But, like, he must have gotten it from skiing.
What do you mean? Not outside.
Yeah, touching something and then touching something else and...
Oh, just maybe like inside eating?
That's the only
crowded place we were at.
Place.
Or like a diner.
Oh, it could have been the diner.
Okay, so I've been wanting to tell you this. One time at the diner, I watched one of the employees.
Oh, no. Don't ruin it for me. Actually, don't ruin it for me. What are you going to say? How are we still even going there? What did you see?
Because it wasn't like a... Okay, it had nothing to do with like the people cooking the food. It was something I saw the wait staff do that I was just like, come on, you should know better than that. But I think I can live with it. Do you not want me to tell you?
Well, if you think you can live with it, knowing how you are, I'm sure it's fine. Go ahead.
They like coughed into their hand and then took their hand onto the rag that they were wiping down the counter. And I was like, that's just, come on now.
Well, those rags that having been a
They're so gross
server,
anyways, right?
like, it's so disgusting. Like, those rags are not cleaned. I mean,
Ugh.
Those rags are just honestly spreading
spread
germs from place to place.
Are we done with the rash? Because I have something adjacent, but I'm lost if we're not done with it.
I think we are. I feel like I had a bigger point to make, but...
I do too. That's why I asked.
It was kind of more about... Well, there were two takeaways for me. One is how I catastrophize everything, but also you can't be too careful, especially with your kids.
Oh my God, I have another thing I'm going to tell you. Yes.
I still have not to make light of PTSD, but I truly have like a lot of guilt and anxiety around when he was 1 and had RSV. And I was so like, he's fine. And you were like, I'm just going to take him to the pediatrician to check. And we go in and she's like, take him to the emergency room right this second. And then he was there for a week. Mm-hmm. And then during that week, because I was with him that whole week, I mean, there were times where I was like, oh my God, it seemed like it was so on the edge of bad things happening. Yeah. And the fact that thank God you took him in. And so now I'm like, so.
Thank God for me.
Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Okay, stop.
Okay.
Stop. We don't want to.
No.
We don't want to.
I actually was being sincere.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, because I'm cool praying to Jesus.
Okay, I don't.
And the Holy Spirit also is kind of more the God I believe in. It's like energy.
Yeah.
It's the Father that I have a problem with.
I want to move on. Okay. I don't know why, but I want to move on.
Okay, carry on. Sorry. But everyone's okay. Great. But we might be ground zero.
Yeah, we might be the start of some crazy
rash,
new measles variant or something.
Yeah.
Speaking of kids' safety, I have another fucking Tesla story. And guess what? Hey, we have so many friends that have Teslas, and we love them so much.
The Teslas or the friends?
The friends.
Yeah.
And Tesla, they're pretty cool cars. I saw someone dropping their kids off at school. I'm not even going to tell you what color the Tesla is because we all know what color it was.
Was it our school?
I don't know. Was it? I don't know. I can't remember that detail.
Okay.
And they just had a 4 or 5-year-old just riding shotgun. You don't do that, right?
No.
Keep the kids safer.
Yeah.
You don't let a 4 or 5-year-old ride shotgun. There's no booster seat. Even if there was, you're not supposed to do that.
That is wild.
Okay. So that's one thing that I thought of with you telling that story. The other thing of cleanliness stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to sound like a fucking broken record. We're just talking about the same things over and over. But there was a sweet lady at the grocery store with her sweet dog. It was like kind of like an Australian Shepherd-y type dog.
Outside?
Inside the store. There's a bigger dog. But she's being so friendly to our daughter in line, and the dog's coming up. And it's like, I don't want to deal with your fucking dog in line at the checkout thing. And then guess what happens? I saw it. The checkout lady saw it. The owner saw it. I'm pretty sure my dog did. But you know how they have
your daughter, you mean?
My dog-ter. Yeah. You know how they have the baguettes sometimes out near the...
No.
I saw the fucking dog shove its nose into one of those sleeves and then bounce out. And I know that the fucking checkout lady saw it and no one said anything. And I'm already taking on a lot saying things like with my justice thing.
You sure are.
And I didn't take this on because I just assumed that something would happen. That maybe the lady that had the dog would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'll buy that bread. And then the checkout lady would be like, no, it's okay, and like set it aside. Who knows?
Okay.
But then when I realized no one was going to say anything, then it became too late for me to really become that guy to the lady that was being so nice to my daughter. It would have been an act of aggression, sort of.
Well,
but it was wrong.
It's so wrong. The dog thing, I was at La Mill recently, and they have like a clear thing, no dogs, and people, especially in that. I mean, I think when we lived over there, that was when I was in my leash your dog era.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? You're homesteading now, and you have like a shepherding dog. Like, get your dog on a fucking leash.
Yeah.
Now it's like they all bring their dogs in, and it's so like it drives me crazy when dogs are around.
Apply to you
when dogs are around food. Ugh. Now, obviously, if it's a service dog, and service dogs, by the way, are clearly like you can tell it's a true service dog. Now, there's some assholes out there who get like service dog status so that they can be assholes.
I don't even want. Let's not even get started on those pieces of shit.
So anyway, having dogs in places where there are food, especially as someone who has severe dog allergies, like if I were to buy that baguette and eat it, it would make me sick.
It's gross.
Fuck that.
It's
anyway,
so gross.
I hate people. I'm just kidding. But I love God.
Yeah. Wait, dogs? Hold on. I
have something.
No, just hold on.
Okay.
Okay, gang. This week's episode is supported by Base.
Yes.
Base makes some dope luggage. So they have thought of everything you could ever want in a piece of luggage. Their carry-on, which they're super popular for, has 360-degree gliding wheels, a cushioned handle, built-in weight indicator, and it just looks so cool. But what we are stoked about in this house here is the Weekender bag.
It is so incredible. First of all, it's super functional. What I am obsessed with this Base bag, Weekender bag, is there's a compartment for your shoes, which is like sturdy. Now,
yes,
going up and back from the cabin, our shoes get mucky.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate having a sturdy, separate area, but it looks like it's integrated into the bag. And what I also love about this bag is it looks amazing. Every piece is made to look better with miles, so you don't have to worry about it in cargo and overhead or in our car jumping around or wherever you're taking it. And Base has over 30,000 five-star reviews.
You also, when we unpacked it, you could not stop talking about the sturdy pop-up of it.
It has like this pop-open thing, which is so great, especially when we're up at the cabin, truly, because I can kind of see everything at once. You put it in, but then when you pop it down, it looks super stylish and cool. It's just really nice to have a functional and sturdy, well-made Weekender bag.
And we have a weekend lifestyle lately.
We sure do.
We're getting up to that cabin. So if you want to check all this stuff out, Base is offering our listeners 15% off your first purchase by visiting basetravel.com/NLR. Again, that's Basetravel, spelled BEIS travel.com/NLR for 15% off your first purchase. That's BEIS travel.com/NLR.
Do you know what cookie I feel someone who is hired there and marketing missed the mark? Like, it should be the way Oreos have stood the test of time. It's a classique. You're like, our kids know what Oreos just are just as much as we did, just as much as our parents did, like the Fig Newton. The Fig Newton has not.
It had its reign.
But it's classic. Where did it go?
Because
why did it go?
I'll tell you why. It errs on the side of like a little bit more sensible of a snack cookie. And in this day and age, people just want the fucking junk. It's not junky enough.
But it's a delight. Have you had one?
Yeah, they are fucking great, and it makes me want to get some because every time you do
Let's
get
keep
them,
it alive.
you're like, oh, these. There was a reason they had a moment, and that moment was like a 30-year long stretch.
Yeah, well, that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
I don't know what went wrong for Fig Newton.
Oh, some of it must have just been the data that they were getting, and then it's like a cost benefit thing because you got to spend a lot of dollars to keep that dream alive.
Now, Oreo, I don't know if you saw it, but did an April Fool's thing. This is where I'm like, Fig Newton, get with the times. Like, hire young guns who are coming in.
No, but did you hear what I just said?
No.
It's a really expensive endeavor, and I'm guessing they don't have the data that's like, if we juice this up, they will come. Like Oreo, they're fucking new variants every month. They're doing all sorts of crazy shit to keep the dream alive.
Exactly. Fig Newton, like, now, I mean, if you're weighing cost, what's more expensive now that you're in your death rattle stage where the Rosen's buying a Fig Newton pack is like their last, we better check the expiration date on that. Versus like pumping a little money into hiring younger people who know what they're...
It's not a little money. And I feel like you sound so out of touch with this. And guess what? Now I'm saying the Newton's over. It's done. And everybody knows it. Like everybody knows it. Fig Newton knows it. Nabisco knows. It's walking those last steps.
Did you see that on April Fool's, Oreo did that the cream and the wafer are doing a conscious uncoupling, and they want respect for their privacy right now, but then they showed a package that's just wafers and then a package that's just cream. Like, that's the type of thing we need for Fig Newton. Yeah. Where is that?
Let's get a sleeve.
Yes.
We'll have some. And we'll circle back.
Do you want to know something? I think
what flavor do you get? OG or do you get the strawberry or?
Ew, God, what? No, crazy. See, that's where they went wrong.
No, it's
when they
not.
started doing strawberry, and you know what else I think?
The different flavors was what breathed life back into them in the 90s.
I think you're so wrong.
That no one just wants plain Fig Newton.
Yes, everyone does. That's what I'm talking about. It's the classic. No, what I think actually hurt it. And I hate to say this because what a gem of a human. But Paul Newman came out with like their version of Fig Newtons at one point in time. And it was kind of like even a healthier version of an already healthier snack cookie. And it was dry. And like, I almost feel like if you had had a Fig Newton before Paul Newman's fig cookies, you would have been like, oh, this is really good. Then when you have the Paul Newman ones, you're like, ooh, it's like crumbly and dry and like too crunchy and whatever. Then when you go back to Fig Newton, you're like, oh, it is pretty dry. Do you know what I'm saying?
No. And the idea that you think that Paul Newman's wannabe Newtons had anything to do with the demise of the Fig Newton just shows me how little you know about this space.
Excuse me, my friend Pam Goldberg.
I would love to hear what Pam has to say about this.
She knows everything about this space.
Yeah.
In fact, she's one of the geniuses behind Belvita.
Hell yeah.
So we could ask
her. Guess what? And I feel like Pam and I are going to be way more simpatico than you two will be on this subject.
Okay.
And Pam might be able to get the data on it and be like, oh yeah, it's just, they're dying slowly. They're just on their slow march to oblivion.
But that makes me sad.
Well, let's get some.
Okay.
I'm a little bummed that you don't like any of the flavored ones.
I'm actually bummed that you're bummed about that because I fancy you kind of a old school classic guy. Like, stick with what works.
I do like that.
Okay. Did you figure out what the fuck you were?
No, but I did want to tell you about what happened to me at Volvo yesterday.
Oh.
Can I tell you?
Yes, I've been dying to know.
So my car has one of those lift gates where you can wave your foot under the bumper and it will go up. Mm-hmm. We have noticed, especially with skiing,
it drives me crazy
that it seems defective. Like,
it's hypersensitive. Like, my lift gate, you really got to get under there with your foot and wave it back and forth.
This thing's going off willy-nilly, and sometimes, honestly, it seems for no reason, right?
And it's like going quickly also. It like almost as like it's about to slam shut. And when we're getting our ski stuff on, we're sitting on the back of the trunk. And there have been several near misses where it's coming down on our heads.
Yeah. I've been hit in the head before, like taking out groceries a couple times for sure.
Have you?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's defective. I mean, my gate stops before it's hitting you.
Mine, you have to touch it.
Okay.
Anyways.
With your head.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's bad.
I do a little research on like what's going on. I get deep into some forums, and we're not the only one having problems with this particular model.
You're kidding.
Okay. So this is the knowledge that I know before I walk into Volvo. Okay. There might be something awry with this kick gate system on this car.
Holy shit.
So there's people in the forums talking about, hey, if you take this fuse out of the car, it will disable it, but it also disables like some other feature or something. And I'm like, I don't want to just willy-nilly be taking fuses out and fucking shit up. So I'm going to take it in. And I read one person saying they went into the dealership to have it deactivated. So I go in, and I'd made my appointment like online, and I get in there and they're like, so why are you here? And I'm like, well, I typed it in.
I already typed it in.
Right.
I took the time.
I'm here to have the kick sensor disabled on my car. And they look at me like I'm a fucking crazy person. Okay.
Is this, you're going to have to bleep this, but were you dealing with Fig Newton?
No.
Okay, good. He would never make you feel foolish.
So the guy looks at me like I'm crazy, and he's also training a trainee on as well. So they're like, I don't understand. And I'm like, oh, it's going off willy-nilly, whatever. I'm trying to explain it. And they're like, well, can we go outside and look at the car? And I'm like, yes, we can, but it's not like it's something I can just show you it happening.
Yeah, you're going to have to take my word for it and all of these people on this forum.
Right. So I'm not playing the forum card just quite yet.
Okay.
But we go out. Of course, the thing doesn't do it. And they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. And I was like, listen, I've done some research on this. I know I'm not the only person with this problem. This is an issue. I've been hit in the head. My son has almost been hit in the head. Like, this is becoming a problem.
It's a huge safety issue.
Yes.
And it's a lawsuit issue.
So I don't ever quite play that card, but I get close to it.
Okay.
So they take me back inside, and they're basically like, there's nothing we can do, because the guy goes and talks to the manager. He comes back, and I said, well, I need to talk to the manager then.
Yes.
So the manager comes out, and I explain the situation, and he's like, there's nothing you can do to disable it. And I was like, listen, I've done some research. I know there's a way to disable it. And he's like, yes, but if you disable it, you're disabling like your rear backup sensor, this.
Oh.
And I'm like, obviously that's not what I want. I just want this thing done. But like, I think it can be that. He then wants to go outside and check the car. And he's like, oh, it looks like you need a software update. That's going to fix it. And I said, unless you can show me a document that says that this software update solves this problem, there's no way I'm like satisfied with that. So he's looking through the documentation of all the updates for something that says it addresses this thing. And of course he can't fucking find it. And I'm like, fuck you for trying to dismiss me, just being like, we just need to update the software on your car.
This is a safety issue. Then you're going to be sitting there with your little son and his head's going to get booped.
Yeah.
Fuck
So we're about half an hour in.
Oh, man.
And I'm standing my ground, being like, now I'm at the point of like, listen, because he convinces me, he's like, listen, I do need to update the software and then we can test it afterwards. And I'm like, you can't really test it. And how long is it going to take to do the software? About an hour. I've said, listen, I need all of this in writing because I don't want to start over here. This is a serious issue. And if it needs to be run up the flagpole more, I need documentation of all of this. And he's like, okay. So he takes me back into the other people to write me up. The poor trainee, his guy that's training him disappears. So I'm kind of telling him what to write in the paperwork. And I'm telling him to use the word defective and all this stuff. And the guy comes over and is like, no, we can't be typing that into it.
Oh, no.
But so they realize I'm not fucking around.
Yeah.
It heats up enough.
Did you show them the forum?
No, I hadn't gotten to that point. I was like, maybe I will do that. I looked it up while I was there. I had it on my phone. Then the guy goes, listen, the manager, I'm such a squeaky wheel. He's like, listen, I will reach out to the engineers on this. There's like engineers that travel around that like answer questions and whatnot. And he acknowledges, he's like, you're not the first person that's complained about this.
Well, what the fuck?
Yeah. But he made it sound like maybe there was just one other person that complained, which might be true. But anyways, he's like, but
I resent that he then acted like you were like, or it makes it even worse that he was dismissing you.
Sure.
You know.
So he says the guy that he's usually deals with is in North Carolina right now. He's probably not going to hear back quickly, but hey, can we just update your software and then hopefully I'll hear from the guy about this? And I was like, yes, that's fine. Caveat, I need all this documented that like this is an issue and mine's not working, whatever. And then while I'm there, he walks back out and he's like, I heard from the guy and we can disable yours. And I was like, well, thank you so
And it's not
much.
Disabling the other safety features?
Nope.
Wow.
Which that makes me know that they fucking know there's a problem. That engineer was like, oh, yeah. And probably was like, this is how you disable it.
Whoa.
Doesn't that make you feel that way?
Yes. This is, okay, lesson learned here. Now, I also noticed this in the emergency room.
Okay.
You know, everyone's waiting there. Obviously, if someone comes in and it seems like they're on death's door, you know, you want to be like, go.
Yeah.
But also, the systems they have there, it's kind of chaotic. That's like the nature of an emergency room, right? And things get lost in the shuffle. The last time I was at an emergency room for myself with the chest stuff, I was there for so long that I was like definitely the last person standing from when I like arrived and other people went in front of me and stuff.
Yeah.
That it wasn't until I went up and said, hey, sorry to bother you. Like, I know this is annoying, but like just double checking that I'm in line.
Yeah.
And they were like, yep, you're in line. And then immediately I went in. It was, I'm like,
oh, interesting.
And I noticed at the ER 3 nights ago, whatever, similarly, the squeaky wheels, they want you out of there. They just don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
And so luckily, I mean, Otis seemed fine and stuff. So I wasn't, but if my kid is ever like really needing to get in, I am going to Andy at Volvo that place so hard.
Yeah.
Because being a loud advocate really does work. Now,
well,
you're not going to make friends.
None. And here's the other thing.
But you're not there to make
what
friends.
I had to risk, I was dropping my car off at a high traffic time. So there's a lot of other people in that waiting room watching me be the asshole because I'm getting loud.
Yeah.
And like, I have to be comfortable with those people seeing this too.
Right.
It put me in a bad mood.
Little do you know, there's like, they have a podcast and they're like, you won't believe this guy who came into Volvo.
I would not be surprised at all if there was another podcast out there talking shit about me.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that.
Right.
But it did sour my morning.
I'm sorry.
Where a lot of sometimes these things, justice ones, I feel good right afterwards.
Yeah.
This one I never felt good about, except that my car's safer now for our children.
Then there's the justice that you get from just, well, full circle, the Lord.
Oh, I don't know if you can do that.
I can.
I don't know if you can.
Oh, I feel like I can.
Oh, wow.
It feels from not this realm. Let's put it that way. So there was a tragic situation with this place that we drive by all the time in a residential neighborhood that a few months ago, very sadly, there was a house fire.
Yeah.
And the house is pretty much gone. And unfortunately, there was someone who died in it.
Yeah, there's one casualty.
And so, you know, very tragic, very sad.
Yeah.
And you happened to be driving by and saw that there was like craft services out front of this place.
Yeah.
And you were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And you came home and then you're kind of stewing on it. And I was like, oh, that's distasteful. So
that's
it turns out.
I was trying to remember the word that we kept saying, distasteful.
Because someone died there. I'm sure their neighbors like knew them, and it's a horrible tragedy. Also, like, even if you don't know that detail, you can look at this house and know that this was the source of immense pain and suffering regardless.
Yeah,
Like, someone
regardless of
lost their house. Like,
yes.
And so it turns out they were filming a little indie film there.
Mm-hmm.
So this was really funny because it was like a beautiful, kind of chilly, but sunshine is shining, scattered clouds day.
Yeah.
And the kids and I was joking with the kids. I was like, Daddy's getting really upset about this.
Yeah.
And you kept kind of talking about it. And then you were like, I'm going to go down there. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So you get in your car and you drive over there.
I'm already laughing because not only, we're going to say what I did, but then I kept driving by throughout the day.
So did I. Okay, so you drive over there, you get out.
I get out.
And you go up and you...
I'm like, who's in charge, right?
You're like a Karen. I want to speak to the manager.
I without a doubt, I'm bringing that energy. Without a doubt. Yeah. But I'm not, it's not at the expense of like, I think everything's like pretty just and fair.
Yes. And by the way, we're saying this as people who have done our own, impromptu film shoots, and like, we understand it bothered you that much that we understand that, like, the stakes for people who are filming there. It's an indie film. It's not a huge production. They don't have a lot of money. Like, so.
And I also, as I walked up, I also realized I see these like guys out front and like, who's in charge? They're not in charge. And like, we'll go get the producer. And I immediately am like, they don't necessarily know someone died here.
Sure.
But they're sure the fuck gonna know. And I want them to know for the rest of the day. I'm going to make sure of that. Now.
Yeah. And also, but again, I stand my ground of like, if I were filming somewhere and showed up and I was like, oh my God, this clearly was like a bad thing that happened.
Well, I do want to get into ethics of it if someone hadn't died there. Let's circle back to that in a second.
Okay.
But so this producer comes out and I'm talking to her and she's like, how can you help? How can I help you? And I was like, I'm just a little confused by this whole situation. And I started getting emotional about it. Aww. I really did. And I said, this just feels very distasteful. Who greenlit this? And it's like, and do you know what happened here? It's like someone died here.
And did she say, I did know that?
I don't know. She was more like, did you know them? I think. Okay. But I was just like, it just feels really distasteful for me. And then, I saw one poor guy, like, like the PA or intern overhearing it and just seeing his face, like, just falling. Like, oh no, like someone died here, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just kind of walked away and that was it till that point. And I felt weird about the whole thing, but also me being emotional. I was like, no, I needed to do it for some reason. Yeah. There was something in me.
You are kind of being a shit disturber.
For sure, because had they not known... And now they know that brings clouds over their day for sure.
Well, it sure did, because you came, first of all, you were gone for a long time and me and the kids were like, what is happening? And I was like, this is not like Daddy. Now I realize it's very like you. But at the time I was like, that feels more like something I would go do in some ways for some reason. Anyway, you finally come home and we're going about our day, and out of fucking nowhere, the skies open up and it starts hailing.
Yep.
Like insane 1 hour long storm of hail and wind. Like so crazy. I feel like I saw so many posts on Instagram about it being like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Yeah.
And we know exactly where it came from.
Well, and you and I, we that day did not speak a word of it because the kids were right there.
Yeah.
We looked at each other and we both smiled and we were both thinking the fucking same thing. That like,
oh my God,
we know who was responsible for this hail.
Yes.
Don't film on their property.
Anyway, I also drove by a few times. Well, I was going to Target, and on my way back, though, I definitely I went out of my way to get by it, and then I slowed down, and I had this confused but outraged look on my face.
How could they?
But I will say this was probably, they were wrapping up probably, it was closer to sundown. They had made it through the hail. I was kind of disappointed to see that the hail didn't just shut down production.
Oh, you saw them still there?
And a guy was smoking, which I found.
Okay, I don't know why I think that's funny, because I understand your angle, but it feels, even to me, it feels a little flimsy for some reason. But it is, I do see what you're saying. Now you're gonna smoke a fucking cigarette, you fucking monsters?
Anyway, but I did, a few people saw me for sure.
I drove by once and turned my music up. It's so stupid.
It sounds like we have too much time on our hands, and I'm wondering if maybe we do. What?
Well, this was a weekend day, and
Oh my God.
Okay, ethics though, real quick on that. Had someone not died there, you alluded to this earlier.
Uh-huh.
You still find it a little ethically weird, and I understand why. But is it? And also, if you're the film crew and you have no idea,
right?
Do you have a responsibility to find out what did happen here, or you're like, oh no, this is a cool location for my creative vision?
Right.
What do you think? Or it's no, fucking wait till you can
I don't know. I don't, and also now we're kind of older. I'm thinking back to when we were filming music videos for Meg.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they probably don't, I don't know what has transpired if the landlord of that place is making that call, or do they know, if the landlord is some sort of landlord who owns tons of places and doesn't care and is just I'm just gonna make money no matter what. It's really on them.
It's not on the film crew.
The people that you made feel terrible.
Yeah. Hold on. Is it really not on them at all? No, I think it can be. This is what I'm saying. Way that it can be.
I think at this stage in my life, if I showed up somewhere, now this is different. And these were kind of younger people from what I could tell, the smoking and stuff. At this stage in my life, especially having a home and a family, I'm thinking about how devastating it would be, even if everyone were safe, to lose our home in a fire. When you're a 25-year-old, I feel like it doesn't, even though you can connect the dots and say that sucks, I don't think it has the same impact necessarily. But now if I showed up somewhere and I'm wait, this place, something really bad happened here.
Yeah.
I would feel weird about it.
Yeah.
And when it started hailing, I would be let's get the fuck out.
I mean, I
think the production's doomed. I'm just going to say, I
had that thought too. Are we insane people?
Yeah.
Do you think, last caveat of all of this, I also, once again, totally understand and accept if there's a film podcast out there right now talking shit about me. And I'm okay with it.
But are they talking shit about God?
How so? Because
you bummed them out a little bit, but it was the hail from out of fucking nowhere that I think, that's the big moment in this story.
No, of course.
Yeah.
And how about this? None of them would be able to experience that feeling had I not shown up in the morning, because at least one of them had to have shared the similar thought as you and me.
You were doing the Lord's work.
Okay, you keep connecting this.
Well, it's very connected. How is it not connected?
So whoa, we have a big difference of mindset here. Not mindset. You think it was God responsible.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the ghost of the person responsible.
Well, I don't know that that's a ghost.
Not ghost, but I mean the spirit of. Not the spirits in the building per se. I'm
Oh no.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you
Okay.
still think it was God.
I think, well, this gets into, I think it's one and the same.
Well, no, my version, it's the person
I know,
who
but
passed away, unfortunately.
I do think that we are all kind of God. Like when we pass and our egos are stripped of us and all of this stuff, I mean, I think we stay like a loving entity that can be separated together. This is wave on ocean, wave on ocean. We're
I
all
kind of don't believe you right now. I think you thought it was God that did it, and I think it was this other person.
well, it's all kind of
and now
blended.
you're trying to blend them together.
That's why I think I can pray to my parents. I can pray to like.
So your parents are God?
Yeah, they're kind of God. You know, they're all kind of together up there. They're part of the ocean.
The ocean's God?
Yes. And
or is that a different thing?
Our experience in this lifetime. So our spirits came and were inhabiting these body vessels, right? For this very brief period of time that is life. Life is short. And what the analogy that Eckhart uses is that a little ripple of when you see in the ocean and there's like a little ripple of like the white crusted ripple, you know what I'm talking about? Can I get I get a witness?
You're losing me big time.
Imagine an ocean.
No, I understand this stuff. You're losing me. I'm disappointed that like someone made the call up there. Yeah, get the fucking hail going. Like it was upper management that was like, yeah, trigger the hail. Where you're saying it was everybody up there kind of was like, do the hail.
Kind of this. To me, it's kind of the same. You're not. I feel like you're coming at this with a really weird, angry energy where I'm saying, like, I think it's kind of beautiful. So then the little ripple happens. That's our lifetime. And then we're kind of go back into the source that we started from, which is the ocean, which is like eternal love and God and all of it, happy, loving energy. And so I think that, yeah, the ocean cued the hail. You know? Not the actual ocean. You know what I'm saying?
So it was more of
It was an entity that is beyond our understanding was cueing that, but it was as a form of like, oh, you think you're going to film there and be disrespectful to someone who, you know, to pain and suffering?
See, I almost think of it more, okay, let's say it was God that made the call. I almost feel like there was the person who maybe had lived in that house before was like at the God desk and was like, listen, they're fucking filming down there. And then like me and Volvo, and then finally they get through and get to upper management and God's like, oh, I got you. Trigger the hail.
Oh, see, Andy, first of all, I don't think he's that mad. Like he's not coming at it with your energy. I think it's more amusing.
Hold on. So you think the hail was funny to them?
Well, it's kind of the way you and I smiled at each other.
Well, because it was funny to us.
Yeah, I think they're amused by this, like, oh, you think you're going to do this?
You don't think there was any part of whatever was responsible for the hail being like, tisk, tisk?
No, because I
don't do that?
I don't think it's like wrathful. And also, by the way, they have, we have gone off the rails. They have the ability. Why didn't they cue an earthquake and a tornado? They could have shut it down. Instead, they just threw some hail in there out of nowhere for an hour.
Well, yeah, because that's a appropriate response. An earthquake would be insane. If like the cause of the earthquake was this film production, that's insane.
Okay. Okay, we really need to end this. I feel like we have gone so far off the rails. Let's just get the fuck out of this, and we'll come back as normal people next week.
Okay?
Good night.
Good night.
Nobody's listening, right?